Om Vakratunda Mahakaya
Mahakaya
Suryakoti
Suryakoti
Samaprabha
Samaprabha
Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada
Guru
Gurur
Brahma
Brahma Gurur
Guru
Vishnu
Vishnu
Gurur
Guru
Devo
Devo
Maheshwaraha Guru
Guru
Sakshat Param Brahma
Brahma
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om
Sahana
Sahana
Vavatu
Bhavatu
Sahana
Sahano
Bhunaktu
Bhunaktu
Saha
Sahaviryam
Vidyam Karavavahem
Karavavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
ma
Vidvishavahai
Om
Om Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha
Om Shri Bhagavatmane Namaha
Athat Dvitiyodhyayaha
Atha Dvitiyodhyayaha
Sanjaya Uvacha
Sanjaya Uvacha
Tam Tatha Kripayabhishtam
Tam Tatha Krupaya Vishtam
Ashrupurnakulekshanam
Ashrubhuna Kulekshanam
Vishidantamidam Vakyam
Vishidandhamidam Vakyam
Uvacha Madhusudanaha.
Uvacha Madhusudanaha.
So the beginning of the second chapter with the words of Sanjaya, who reports to Dhritarashtra saying that Madhusudanaha spoke these words to the Arjuna, who was sad, completely distressed, his eyes covered with tears. So, therefore, the Madhusudanaha, Sri Krishnaha, Sri Bhagavan is going to speak. Not yet the teaching. Here, seeing the condition of Arjuna, Bhagavan will provoke Arjuna, will rebuke Arjuna, and he will ask him to stand up and fight. So, therefore, the second shloka begins with the words of Bhagavan Krishna. So here only Bhagavan Uvacha. Even though in the first chapter also Bhagavan Uvacha was there, but not with Bhagavan Uvacha. As dictated by Arjuna, the Sarathi Krishna is parked the vehicle in between the two armies. Then he said, Pashyame Partha. He said, Hey Partha, Pashya, you please see, Hey Partha, Pashyatan Samavetan Kuruniti. That's one small sentence he spoke in the first chapter. There is no Bhagavan Uvacha. But here in the second chapter, first time Bhagavan Uvacha. That too here not the teaching. Teaching starts only from the 11th shloka. So here the Bhagavan, he responds to the reaction. The reaction is, having thrown the arrow and the bow, he sat in the chariot, not wanting to fight. Arjuna was gloomy, very deeply depressed, distressed. To him, there Bhagavan speaks. Bhagavan says. What did the Lord say? Let us read. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Kutastva Kashmalamidam
Kutastva Kashmalabhidam
Vishame Samupasthitam
Vishame Samupasthitam
Anaryajushtamasvargyam
Anaryajushtamasvagyam
Akirtikaram
Akirtikaram
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Bhagavan said about Arjuna. Vishame, in this crisis, the war is a crisis. From where? Kutaha. From where? Tva, tvam, unto you. Kashmalam. Idam Kashmalam. That is this dukkha. From where this dukkha has come upon you, which doesn't befit you. You being a kshatriya doesn't befit you. Why? Because it is anarya jushtam. It is na arya jushtam, anarya jushtam. That is not becoming of an upright man. Na arya. Arya means noble person, arya. So that doesn't belong to a noble person, an upright person, an honest person. And also asvargyam. This dukkha will not take you to swarga, not conduce you to swarga loka, asvargyam, and akirtikaram. It will also bring you akirti only, infamy only, not it will not make you fame. It will make you infamy. It will make you famous in the negative sense. Iti uses very strong words. Anarya jushtam, asvargyam, akirtikaram. Iti, the three words. Shri Bhagavan said, in such crisis, from where has this despair come upon you, this kashmalam, this dukkham, this vishadam has come upon you, O Arjuna? It is not at all becoming of an upright man and doesn't add to your good name, nor is it which leads one to heaven. Hey Arjuna, where did you pick up this despair, this sorrow, kashmalam, dukkham? Asked Krishna. How did you get this sorrow? Before coming to the war, you are fully courageous. You are eagerly waiting for the battle. You want to take revenge of your opponent, the Dhartarashtras, Duryodhana, and others who had insulted you and insulted Draupadi. So you who were entertaining revenge, wanting to revenge, now suddenly you became sad. Suddenly you subject yourself to despair. From where this has come to you? Arjuna had been talking in a way that did not sound like him at all. It was not the Arjuna, what Krishna had seen before. Because it was totally unexpected, Krishna's response did not take the form of helpful advice. It's a strong word. Anaryam, anaryushtam, aswargyam, akirtikaram. So that it's not an advice. It is completely unexpected behavior of Arjuna. Therefore, Krishna's response was not in the form of the advice or something. He did not let Arjuna know. He understood his position and the difficulties he was facing. Even though Krishna understands, but he did not show that. First, he will rebuke. He will do ninda, directly hitting by words. Instead, he whipped him with his tongue, not advising. Already Arjuna is in despair. When somebody is in despair, then you take pity on that person and you advise or you console. But Krishna did not do. He whipped him by strong words. Where does this despair come from? Hey Arjuna, it doesn't befit you at all, he said. This was not the Arjuna I saw before. I never saw such Arjuna before. I never saw you like this before. To expand Krishna's words, you have missed your calling, Arjuna. You should have been a great actor. How could you have hidden this from me all these years? Very strong. I never expected that you could get into this kind of a state. We all knew you to be the bravest, the most courageous. And now I hear your talk that betrays only sorrow. Sorrow at the thought of the imminent destruction that this war will bring. It may have been all right if you had mentioned all this before we came to the battlefield. We could have sat down and discussed it, but we cannot do that here. This is both the wrong time and the wrong place. Thus, Krishna admonished Arjuna. So all these are understood from the words of the Krishna. This is not the time to discuss, to decide whether we should go ahead for the war. Already decided. It's a decided thing. So we cannot step back. So therefore, from where this despair has come upon you, and all these years have you been acting because you have hidden your cowardice all these years, making a show that you are brave. So very strong words. All these are implied, the words of Krishna. This was when that Arjuna should have been spending his time on the strategies of the war, such as deciding with whom he should fight and how to proceed, etc. He was in the battlefield, standing in the midst of the two armies, having requested Krishna to be his driver. Krishna had fulfilled his end of the bargain, but now it looked as though he had backed the horse that would not even start. Not only you are sick, Arjuna, Krishna went on, but you have made me also sick. This is a time for brave deeds, not for this kind of lamenting. This is neither the time nor the place for such talk. Krishna therefore demanded to know where all these had come from. This is not the time, this is not the desha, this is not the kala. Already decided, having decided and come here. And now we are withdrawing. That doesn't befit a person like you, a kshatriya. So instead, what you are supposed to do at this time, you are supposed to plan your war strategy. Instead, you are lamenting like a coward. From where this cowardice, from where this despair has come upon you. The verse contains three adjectives describing Arjuna's despair. Anarya Jushta, Asvargya, and Akirtikara. Anarya Jushta derives its meaning from Arya. Arya meaning upright man, noble man, who does the right thing at the appropriate time. Dharmikaha ityartaha. Who does the right thing at the right time. Arjuna was reminded by Krishna that he had always been an Arya Purusha, a man who did what was to be done, a Dharmika Purusha. From such a man, despair is not expected. Therefore, this behavior is Anarya Jushta, not befitting, not becoming an Arya. So you have been Arya before, and now you have become Anarya. It means you were not Arya at all. All these years you have been Anarya only. You have been hiding this. That is the implied meaning. So it's a very strong word. Therefore, this behavior, now what behavior you exhibit in the battlefield is Anarya Jushta, not befitting, not becoming an Arya. It is not that an Arya doesn't cry. He will cry when the occasion warrants it, but not in the battlefield where he has to act. Where one has to act, there one has to act. In keeping with what is the dharma, what is to be done, he has to do it. Not lamenting, not crying, that is not the quality of an Arya. Thus Krishna told Arjuna that his despair, his wailing and lamentations here in the battlefield are totally inappropriate, not fitting with time and place. Anarjushta, not becoming at all. A bereaved person, a bereaved Arya, an Arya also will cry. When somebody who he loves, who loves passes away, then naturally he will cry. Not that he will not cry, but crying not because of this covered, this despair. And that too in the battlefield. The battlefield, no Arya will cry. And that too, this Yuddha is Dharma Yuddha. So no Arya would cry. But Arjuna is crying. Therefore, Anarya Jushta, not becoming at all. It is reminding Arjuna that you are Arya Purusha. You are not supposed to lament in the war. Having decided to fight, you are not supposed to do it now. This is unbecoming of you. Krishna also told him that when he was contemplating that what he was contemplating was Asvargya, not the way to heaven. It will not lead you to heaven, Swargaloka, after Maranam, after death. Arjuna had said that he had heard the people who destroy the family and thereby the dharma would live in hell, naraka, an abode of pain. Narake niyatam vasaha, he said in the first chapter. For a certain length of time, he will live in naraka. He said, the one who destroy the family, that person will go to naraka and live in naraka for a certain length of time. He therefore thought that by doing his duty of fighting this war, he would go to naraka, and that by not doing it, by retreating, by withdrawal, he would go to heaven, swarga. Iti Arjuna said in the first chapter, that kula dharma, the kula gnanam, kulasya narake niyatam vasaha, killing the family, the kula, and therefore the kula dharma by which the person goes to naraka, he said. Therefore, withdrawal from the war, retreating from the war, he would go to heaven, but that is not true. Hey Arjuna, that is not true. Your thinking is wrong. It is asvargyam, really. It will lead you to naraka only. Withdrawal from the war will lead to naraka. You said withdrawal from the war will lead to swarga, but it is not. Withdrawal from the war will lead you to naraka. Therefore, asvargyam. He was therefore prepared to sacrifice everything and go to swarga. Krishna was now telling him that if this were to be his thinking, it would not work. Wrong thinking. Not fighting would amount to a dereliction of duty, negligence of duty, because he was supposed to protect the law and order of the kingdom. Therefore, when he talked this, it was asvargya. Krishna also told him in a later verse that in addition to living with sorrow and privations, due to not having a kingdom, this dereliction of duty would gnaw at his heart. Furthermore, when he died, he would go only to Naraka and not to Swarga. To this, Arjuna might have said that he did not care about going to heaven. He did not even know if there was a heaven or a hell. Being cornered, he might have said that all he cared about was here and now. If this were Arjuna's thinking, then Krishna tells him that it would prove to be a kirtikara, a disgrace, even in this life. He says this sorrow leading to your running away from the battlefield is not going to redound to your credit in the society. People are going to look at you and say, that is Arjuna, the one who ran away from the battlefield. If you go to Rishikesh and sit under a tree, pilgrims will come to see you before going to the Ganges saying, I want to see Arjuna, the fellow who ran away from the battlefield. Everyone will talk lightly of you. That is akirtikara, which no kshatriya would like. Akirtikara, that infamy is equivalent to death for a kshatriya. Therefore, Krishna uses that word akirtikara. It will not give you good name. It will pull you down. People will look down upon you. Those people were looking upon you, now they will look down upon you. Therefore, akirtikaram, your withdrawal from the war is akirtikaram. It will bring you bad name. It will pull down your name. People, all people know Arjuna, that great warrior, having obtained even the Pashupatastra from the Lord Shiva. He is highly skilled in archery, Dhanurdharaha, and the great disciple and favorite disciple of Dronacharya. All these glories, what will happen? All these glories, now it will be brought to, it will be pulled down, all the glories of you. Now people will not talk about your glories, rather they will look down upon you because your withdrawal from the war. So that becomes a stain in your character. So therefore, akirtikaram is a very strong word. He might have said further, they will say, how great was Arjuna, how courageous he was. He was a master archer until the battle began. Nobody is going to give you credit for such an action, Arjuna. Nobody is going to say what he was before, but what he is now. That is why this running away from the war, retreating from the war, will bring a bad name. It will cause complete destruction of the name and fame, whatever he had gained before. People will not glorify the Arjuna before. People will glorify the Arjuna after, who ran away from the battlefield. Krishna may then have said, not only will they talk lightly of you, They will criticize and belittle all your powers and prowess. Even ordinary people will talk ill of you. If you run away from the battlefield, Dharmaputra, your older brother, crestfallen, will follow you. Bhima, of course, will be angry, but being helpless, he too will go away. The whole army will fizzle out. Everyone will leave, and some may even heave a sigh of relief that they have escaped. Arjuna running away means all will go back. So therefore, without fighting, the war would have been won by Duryodhana. And those whoever have supported Pandavas, the allies, all will be in problem. So, therefore, everyone in Arjuna's ranks was afraid of Bhishma and Drona, and those in the opposite camp were afraid of Arjuna and Bhima. The people on the side of Dhritarashtra, that is Duryodhana, they are afraid of Arjuna and Bhima, very powerful warriors. And Arjuna was ready to run away. So, therefore, what will happen? They all would be greatly relieved. The Pandavas, along with their entire army, would be gone, and Duryodhana would be handed the victory on a platter. He would be able to say, hands down, without a shot, I won. Krishna would therefore have admonished Arjuna even further. After you have gone to the forest, what will Duryodhana do? There will be parties everywhere. Duryodhana will let the entire army drink as much as it wants, much more than a happy hour. It will be a happy day because the media is with him. The Duryodhana will see to it that people think you are a coward. He will say that Arjuna asked Krishna to station his chariot in such a way that he could see Duryodhana's army, and seeing it, he ran away in fear. The headlines will read, Arjuna saw, shivered, and ran. There will even be photographs of you running away. Of course, Krishna may have continued. Duryodhana will present it in the worst possible light because Duryodhana cannot afford to have citizens looking up to Arjuna as a man of sacrifice. He will belittle you, Arjuna, even though he knows in his heart that your sacrifice was only due to compassion for the people, to save their families, and so on. He will not allow anyone to know that. He will cover it all. He will cover it all up, saying that you ran away out of sheer fear for your precious life. Duryodhana will not be the only one to present this way. The ordinary soldiers who normally had nightmares about Arjuna, those who had been so afraid of him, those who were recruited only a few days ago, will also talk like this. Whoever drinks, over drinks, one will boast to others that Krishna stopped Arjuna's chariot right in front of him, and when Arjuna's eyes fell upon him, all he did was twist his moustache and give him that special look, and Arjuna ran away in terror. Who will not tell such stories? Not only the great warriors, but also yesterday's recruits who joined the army yesterday. They also will talk like this. People will talk so ill of you, Arjuna, that it will be impossible for you to be happy in this world. So wherever you go, your running away from the battle alone will be spoken of. So this then was what Krishna meant by Akirtikara. Krishna would have also reminded Arjuna of the many wonderful titles that had been lavished upon him over the years. He was a role model for every soldier, and now he was thinking of running away. This would be something like a Nobel laureate who have been honored for the great work he had done for the downtrodden, the poor, and the ill of the society, is found to have committed a multiple murder for the sake of the money. This news, of course, would blare out from the headlines of all the newspapers. The Nobel laureates of the world will then immediately surrender their scrolls because the Nobel Prize will no longer have any meaning. This was exactly what happened when a group of rock singers was knighted. One of the old knights surrendered his knighthood because he didn't want to be in the same ranks as these young singers. Therefore, Arjuna, your name, fame, credibility, and everything will be destroyed. Krishna tells Arjuna. Kirtikara means that which adds to your name. Akirtikara is that which doesn't add to one's credit at all. Your sorrow, Arjuna, is Akirtikara. I see in it the seed for all further reactions, says Krishna. Arjuna had already dropped his bow and arrows and sat down. Krishna therefore had to tell Arjuna that his thinking was confused and that he should get up and do what had to be done. That further is Bhagavan Krishna says, very strong word. Very strong word. Let us read the third shloka, verse number 3. Klaibyam asmakamav partha.
Klevyam asmagama partha.
Naitadvayupapadyate.
Naitadvai yupapadyate.
Rudram hridaya daurbalyam.
Shudram Hridaya
Daurbalyam Tyaktva Parantapa.
Tyaktva Tishtha Parantapa.
Klaibyam Masnagamaf Partha. Hey Partha, don't yield yourself to this klaibyam, unmanliness. Klibasya bhavaha klaibyam, unmanliness. That doesn't befit you. Na etat tvayi upapadyate. That na upapadyate. Kshudram, it is very lowly. And hridaya daurbalyam, it is the weakness of the heart. Therefore, giving up all this lowly, this weakness of the heart, tyaktva, tva pratyaya, tyaktva, having given up the weakness, uttishta, get up, uttishta, e parantapa, paran, shatrun, tapayati, the scorcher of the enemies. Arjuna is the scorcher of enemies. So reminding him, you are parantapa, you are not a coward. Therefore, giving up all this, get up and fight. Uttishtata, jagrata, prapyavaran nibodata. In Kathopanishad, it is there. The same uttishta, lot lakara. Ho partha, the vanquisher of enemies, parantapa. Don't yield to unmanliness. Klaibyam mas magavav partha. That doesn't befit you. Na yetata toyi upapadyate. Give up this, tyaktva, this lowly, kshudram, hridaya daurbalyam, weakness of the heart. Having given up, get up, uttishta iti. By calling Arjuna as Partha, the son of Pritha, Krishna was saying, this is definitely not the time for behaving like a child, a mama's boy. Krishna also used the word klaibya, meaning that one is neither male nor female. In other words, the mental state of a eunuch. Men fight in a certain way, and women have to fight. They too fight in a way that is peculiar to them. Eunuchs are, on the other hand, are a problem in any society because they are in between, either man or woman. Krishna advised Arjuna against that state. Don't proceed in this way. Don't let this emotion take you over. Klaibyam masmagamaha. Arjuna was known to be a man of great discipline, perseverance, dexterity, and skill. And therefore, this thinking like a kliba did not fit him at all. Klibasya bhavaha, klaibyam, unmanliness. Very strong word. So you are unmanly. That is enough to hurt the ego of the Kshatriya Arjuna. He was a soldier, and as Krishna said, it was his duty not to talk in this way. More than a soldier, he was a Kshatriya who was supposed to protect Dharma. By birth, he had this duty enjoined upon him. In addition, because he was a prince, he had to set an example. Nor was he an ordinary prince. He was the most exalted among princes. There was no one like him in this kingdom or elsewhere. He was a role model for many. Therefore, whatever he did, others would follow. Therefore, Klaibyam mas magamav partha. Many people, they emulate you, they look upon you. Therefore, from this klaibyam, the klibasya bhavaha, unmanliness, it doesn't befit you. You are a role model, Arjuna, a leader. You are not a sadhu. You are not a dropout, a hobo who can do as he likes. You are a responsible person, and what is more, a leader. You are one of the 5 crowned princes, and your older brother is supposed to rule. You are committed to doing what is to be done, and there is no escape. To run away is not fitting for any soldier, and for you, Arjuna, it is definitely not fitting, says Krishna. Even though the war involves killing, being dharma for Kshatriya, he has to do. So Krishna reminds him, you are a soldier. Here, having come to the battlefield, you cannot practice ahimsa. It doesn't befit you. There's a difference, himsa and ahimsa. Ahimsa, even when practiced, even though ahimsa is a good quality, if it is practiced in the battlefield, then it is not ahimsa. It will not be looked upon ahimsa. If you are a follower of ahimsa, then you must not come to the battlefield. You should not be a soldier. You should have taken to sannyasa long back. Having come to the battlefield, practicing ahimsa is a wrong value. Is wrongly understood the values. Even though ahimsa is paramo dharmaha, ahimsa paramo dharmaha, we say the great value which one has to inculcate, but that should not be practiced by the king or the soldier. The king whose responsibility is to protect the citizen, and the soldier whose responsibility is to protect the people and that fighting in the war. So therefore, should not give lecture on ahimsa here. Here, himsa, even though Himsa is involved. That is a dharma. So therefore, we have to understand the value of practicing the value in the context. For this is, even though himsa is papam, but here that himsa in the war, it brings kirti to the kshatriya. He is supposed, because it is duty, even though it is himsa, that becomes the dharma of the kshatriya, the warrior. Only ahimsa will become following. Ahimsa will become adharma for a kshatriya in the battlefield. Therefore he says, get up and fight. Therefore Krishna continued, giving up, being overcome by emotional weakness. At this time, Arjuna is base and lowly. Please get up. Although he addressed him politely, Krishna ordered Arjuna up, in fact. In the first line of this verse, he called him Partha. Then to remind him who he was, he called him Parantapa, the one who destroys the enemy. Enemies were afraid of him. Enemies are afraid of him even now. Therefore, calling him Parantapa, making him realize that he is not an ordinary person, ordinary soldier, ordinary man, noble and a brave person, courageous person. Therefore, he says, don't run away. He said, get up and face the battle. Krishna told Arjuna to do what had to be done. For Arjuna, it happened to be a battle. The whole Gita is going to point out that what is to be done must be done, unless one is a sannyasi. Sannyasi is an exemption. Sannyasi doesn't have anything as that should be done, because he has given up. He has given up everything and taken to sannyasa. Therefore, he is free from responsibilities, he is free from duties. So, only when he does karma, only when he does taking of somebody's duty, then becomes a problem for a sannyasi. Sannyasi is free. Not that he can do adharma. That is not the meaning. Sannyasi is free from doing what is to be done, as like the kshatriya, like the other ashrama, other varna. Sannyasi free from karma. Kshatriya is not free from karma. Sannyasi is free from karma. Grihasthas are not free from karma. They are supposed to do. Sannyasi, his karma is only studying Shastra. That is only karma, not fighting. So that he has to do. He has to follow the sannyasa principles. That achara is there. That is for the sannyasi. So unlike others, sannyasi doesn't have anything specifically to be done. Anything specifically. He's got his own dharma. Following ahimsa, irrespective of the time, irrespective of the place. Everywhere is supposed to follow ahimsa. Even if he happens to be threatened by the people with the weapons, supposed to practice ahimsa. Ahimsa, that is the vow we have taken. Therefore, sannyasi is a different thing. So for doing what is to be done can be yoga, requiring only a change of attitude on your part. Thus, this part of the Gita is a setup for the whole dharma that is going to be unfolded, and the seed for what is to come later in terms of karma yoga. Being ordered to get up in this way, Arjuna felt that he was not understood, much less was his sympathy understood. He then began again to explain himself. So much respect did he have for Krishna. Krishna's admonitions were not meant as criticisms, but were only to show Arjuna that a particular type of thinking led to his sorrow, and that now he should change his thinking. Sympathy for others is a virtue, but what is to be done has to be done. The whole teaching is about another type of thinking, and Arjuna's thinking process was triggered off by Krishna's whipping words, as evidenced by his reply. So, Krishna did a beautiful job of whipping by words that will make Arjuna further think. His thinking was clear from the first chapter. After that, he paused. Then, by the whipping words of Krishna, he further started thinking. Finally, he will come around and surrender to Krishna and ask for help. Then only Gita will start. But now, Arjuna, he replies to the whipping words of Krishna. saying Arjuna Vacha, fourth shloka, which we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದः.